Okay, friends. Once again, welcome you all to NMBF Coffee Chats, a place where we gather and discuss different topics and issues that affect our living. And Thursdays, 12 o'clock, we in the noon, we gather for seniors to discuss topics and issues that affect the lives of seniors. So today we have this wonderful topic on will execution and financial planning with respect to seniors. And we have a wonderful resource person with us. So I want to request Murli ji, Mr. Murli, to kindly introduce him. Mr. Murli himself is a finance expert, a banker for many years. So he's the one who's brought our resource person today. So, Brother Murli, would you go ahead and introduce him, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. And good afternoon to each one of you here on this call. Thank you very much, Mr. Abhijit, for being such a very volunteering person to bring about topics of relevance to humankind and society. I truly appreciate the very, very useful topics that you bring forth resource person every week after week on Thursday afternoons. Hearty welcome to you, to all of the participants here, and a special hearty welcome to Mr. Saravanan, my friend from Purple Pond. A brief introduction about Mr. Saravanan before we proceed ahead, because we have only very little time at our disposal. Saravanan is often called as Sara by friends, and he was actually an engineer by profession, but had a taste for financial consultancy, and there was a passion for him. And therefore, he gave up this technical job and came on to be working for a company called Smiths in India, and also an MRF, and subsidiary of multi-billion-dollar company. And then he also served for a brief while in Saudi Arabia in the engineering experience, right? In 2015, Sarah pursued his passion and took over the profession of and turned into a full-time wealth management. I have been a benefactor in the wealth management expertise and skill that Sarah has. I hope you will not mind us calling him as Sarah instead of Saravanan, okay? So I'm sure, is it okay, sir?
Yeah. Always.
Sarah is also the IRD certified advisor. I'll not go into all of those technical expertise, certified trust estate planner, certified mutual fund advisor, certified retirement advisor. As I told you, I am one of the benefactors. I was keeping all my fixed deposits in the bank, and one of my friend introduced Sarah to me. And today my wealth is almost, I mean, I don't want to say the figure, but it has gone a huge sum because of the very systematic and, I know, a very dedicated way he and his team in Purple Pond do to handhold us, especially the senior citizens, to how do we go about investing this wealth that God has made us. You see, if in the Bible, if you see, Jesus spoke about money more than anything else, right? So I think it's so important and also pertinent that Mr. Sara has turned away from his technical profess to in the area of money, and he believes in something called as a 360-degree risk mitigation, which has made his concentrate on trust and estate planning for his customers. He's got a desire to enable at least 1 lakh lives in area of financial abundance. That's his dream. Okay, so he's also pursuing his PhD, and very soon will be a doctorate. And I'm so happy that Mr. Saravanan has accepted our request to be with us. So this is in short about Mr. Sara. What I will be also briefly telling you is what are we going to do in the next 50 minutes or so, right? Now the time is already 12:12, so we have at our disposal another 50 minutes or so, around 50 minutes, right? In 50 minutes, I think 40 minutes we'll devote to presentation by Sarah, and thereafter we'll be having a question answer session. If any of you have got any question answers, can you please put it on the chat box, or keep your questions written so that during question time, I will be moderating this program and you can raise your questions, and if possible, we should be able to address your questions. That is the pattern it's going to be. And estate planning and financial planning is going to make life simpler. This is, I believe, the need of the hour. I've been in the banking sector for almost 38 years, And I found a lot of cases in litigation. And there has been a heartburns and conflicts after death. And I believe there has not been proper planning done when I am alive, when people are alive. Right? So it's so important for us to understand that death and we are a death denying society. Death is inevitable. We are all going to die one day or the other. But look at the countries like Bhutan, which serves as the very highest number in happiness index, and they talk about death almost 5 times a day. And Mr. Sara and I were jointly made a presentation on how to keep a house in order, regarding which Mr. Abhijit has shared it with all of us there. So that is going to be one of the things, and then he'll be telling you briefly about financial planning, how to go about doing it, the power of attorney and will, how to go about executing it. Will is going to be the last portion of anything that has to happen for estate planning. And this is all in short I want to say. And I will be moderating this session. Over to Mr. Sara for his presentation. If you have any questions, please keep it aside, and then we will carry it forward. Any other clarifications? Sara will also be sharing in this presentation. Thank you everyone for joining. This is also being live streamed on YouTube, and we are also recording this so that those who missed the opportunity of being here this afternoon will be able to tune in and listen to this valuable discussion going forward. Thank you very much, and we put our hats together to invite Mr. Sara for this presentation. Thank you, sir, and over to Sara.
Thank you, Mr. Murali, for a very exhaustive introduction. And good afternoon to all participants. I'm really blessed to be among you, the most experienced lot, trying to talk about something which is very, very common. Anyone in life is supposed to have a plan in place. So plan is something which definitely gives you happiness. There is a saying, the one who plans, one who does not plan is planning to fail. So in all our pursuit of life, planning becomes one of the most critical activity. So first, the whole presentation, we look at it as two parts. One, we will look at, as a senior citizen, what are the areas you will have to be cognizant about when you are looking at your finance. And we'll spend most time in trying to do how do you handle your wealth which you have generated during your active life? How do you deal with your wealth? How do you pass on your wealth? That becomes the estate planning as a separate chapter. So we will deal with both financial planning and estate planning. Estate planning is how do you pass on your wealth from your generation. Estate planning is essentially a planning process which helps passing of wealth from one generation to the other generation. So we'll just first look at what are the things that you need to take care of in doing your financial planning. This financial planning, when I talk about, I'm not going to dwell deep into how do you invest, because those days are during the active income period is when we talk about investment planning. Now that you have accumulated corpus, now that you have done with your active employment, now you are into the golden nest period, or you are into a retirement period. What are the things that you will have to take care during this post-retirement period is what we are going to discuss today. So if you take first and foremost, I think this everyone is doing it, estimate your retirement income. When I say retirement income, you will have different sources from which you are deriving your income. It could be a rental income, it could be a income from your insurance retirement plan, it could be your employer's retirement pay, or it could be a financial product which you have made the corpus ready for your retirement, from which you are every month drawing for your living expenses. So first and foremost, sum up all your retirement income. It may be coming in parts, but have a sum total of what is your retirement income, so that you will be able to better plan your expenses. Then when you're looking at a senior citizen and doing a financial planning, it is all the more important how do you handle your cash flow planning rather than investment planning. Investment planning talks about what product to invest in, where, when to rebalance. All those things are lesser importance during the post-retirement. The most important aspect would be the cash flow planning. When I say cash flow planning, first and foremost, we need to, you as a senior citizen, you will have to know your income source, total amount of money that you are generating per annum or per month. Then how are you going to apportion it to various expenses? This various expenses, one of the method what you can do is you can bucketize your expenses into different categories, like the healthcare expenses that can be put as an emergency corpus or healthcare medical expenses. Then you can have your regular living expenses as a separate bucket. Then you can also have travel expenses or leisure travel expenses, because as a professional, as a businessman, probably you did not have much time to go out with your spouse. So now maybe you have time for which you want to travel, you want to pursue your passion. So you will have to allocate certain sum of money for your travel activities. So basically you can bucketize your corpus into 3 different buckets and accordingly dip into those buckets for your expenses. Because if your health condition is such, you need to have more medical expenses, you will have more medical expenses, then the proportion of your corpus should be more on your healthcare bucket. Then comes healthcare cost. The inflation, I'm sure everyone will appreciate inflation. The highest inflation rate is in healthcare. It is not CPI inflation of 6%. The healthcare cost actually moves up every year by more than 10% in India. So healthcare cost is going to be a ever increasing cost for which we have to be planned. The next topic which we are going to deal in detail is estate planning. This estate planning is commonly misunderstood as a real estate planning. No, this is a estate planning. Estate is something which one accumulates during his lifetime or one's net worth. So how do you pass on your accumulated wealth to the next generation? That is what is estate planning. In all your cash flow analysis and retirement income planning, estimation of your retirement income and your living expense requirement, most of the time people forget to have the impact of inflation also calculated or also considered. Most of the time, if you look at some of the products which are available in the market also, they give you a flat payout. If you take a annuity plan pays you 40,000 rupees for the sum that you have bought. And every month you get 40,000 rupees till your life. This is not going to be very useful to you, because the first year when you get 40,000 rupees, second year what you would require is at least 42,400, because your lifestyle cost is going to be ever increasing because of the inflation. So one of the most important aspects when you plan your post-retirement cash flow, you will have to take into consideration the inflation impact on your living expense, on your medical expense. So consider including inflation on your calculations or in your post-retirement cash flow management. One of the most important aspects which a senior citizen should be aware of is n number of scams are there, financial scams. So don't ever get into that. People might be promising you sky high. People might be saying you, I will give you 1% per month. All those things are not maintainable. If SBI Bank gives you 6% per annum, senior citizen, if you get 7-8% per annum, how can an individual who promises that with stock market investment, I'll be able to give you 1% per month? So it is, even people have promised 10%, 5% per month. All those things are not maintainable. So don't get into any of the make quick buck or plans which promises you a quick get rich quick solutions. Don't get into that at all, because you don't have time to recoup any mistake done. So any money that you lose in scams, it is very difficult for you to recoup because you are already over and above the active earning life. So avoid scams. Your most important aspect would be how do you preserve your corpus generated during your active life and how do you live out of the corpus. So don't get into any of the scam. And taxation is another important aspect which takes away some of your earnings. So when you have the income flowing from different products, there are some products where the income is directly taxable. There are capital gain oriented products where your taxation can be reduced to a large extent, or it can be postponed to the later part of your life. To that extent, your investments are going to increase in value. So review taxation periodically and don't get into interest income bearing instruments, or don't generate too much of interest income. If your living expenses 30,000-40,000 rupees, don't generate a 1 lakh interest income where then 12 lakhs annual income, you get into a taxation aspect. If your 40,000 is your living expenses, try to generate a interest income of 40,000 rupees, which will be roughly 5 lakhs, which will be well below the taxable limit, and keep other money, other corpus in products which will give you capital gain treatment, and as and when required, you can withdraw it. The taxation impact will be very less compared to a interest-bearing instrument. This portion, if any of you want further details, probably you can message me, you can write to me. We can deal with this particular aspect in detail for a specific individual. And last but not the least, everyone has their own domain expertise. So probably when it comes to question of managing your finances, it is highly recommended you engage a financial planner, financial advisor, who will be able to add a lot of value. Whatever you are not able to cut through, you are not able to see through, he will be able to add value to the whole process of planning your finances, managing your finances, protecting your hard-earned money. And he will also be able to create scenarios and tell you at what rate your expenses you will be able to the corpus will be able to outlive your life. So it becomes very important to engage a financial planner so that you will be able to take care of your post-retirement cash flow and have a very joyful post-retirement life. With this, we will move on to the estate planning part of it. When I say estate planning, what do we do? Actually, we create wealth during the earning period. During your life, where between 22, 25 to 60, we create wealth. And maybe at 50, 55, we get into a mood of protecting the wealth. Whatever we have created, we protect it. Then a time comes, because nobody will be able to take the wealth along with us. A time comes when you will have to do the wealth transfer. So this is how a cycle, this is how 3 components work. So you create wealth, you protect the created wealth, then you will have to transfer it one day to your loved ones. Let's see how things move out. Say, if you look at what are the 3 essential risks, you can always say, I have created wealth and it will be inherited without any problem. No, it cannot. It need not be the case. You will have 3 different risks. You can have a risk from creditors, people who have lent you money. If you are in a business, creditors can be a greatest risk for your wealth. Then the predators. The predators, you may not know, like some of the dissatisfied, disgruntled relationships, your own cousins, your own brothers, probably they are not very happy with you. They can pose a lot of risk in your wealth getting passed on. Then the liabilities that you create during your lifetime, you take some loans. So the liabilities that you create can come back and haunt your loved ones on your wealth that you have created. So how do you protect from all these three risks? You will have to look at how do you safeguard your wealth from all these risks. Now coming to the questions, let me ask you 2-3 questions. Do you want to control the wealth that you have till the time you are alive? Or do you want to have a control over your assets till your last breath? Do you want to take care of your loved ones and yourself if you become incapacitated? 2 questions I have posed. Do you want to have a control over your assets till your last breath? Do you want to take care of you and your loved ones even when you get into a state of incapacitation? The third question, do you want to give what you want to give, to whom you want to give, when you want to give, and the way you want to give? So 3 different questions I have posed. Do you want to have a control till your last breath? Control on your wealth till your last breath? Do you want to take care of you and your loved ones even if you are incapacitated? Or how do you want to translate your wish into? How do you want to share your wealth? To whom you want to share? When you want to share? How you want to share? All these things will be answered in the estate planning. These questions you will find an answer in estate planning. Let's look at what is an estate? Estate is something which you own. Today, if you're owning a piece of land, house, some fixed deposits, some mutual funds, all those you own, or you will own after your death, also becomes part of your estate. People can ask, what will I own after death? Look at someone who was traveling in a Cochin flight. The sum assured on the passenger, if the passenger were to meet with the crash, and the money that is passed on becomes his estate. So the properties you own, the assets you own, and the assets you might own on death, both will become part of your estate. Types of assets. What are the types of assets which one will own? Is physical assets, which is known to everyone, land, building, and precious metals. Financial assets, it could be FD, mutual funds, or shares. Then digital assets. Today we are living in a digital world. If I take control of a mobile number, email ID, and the bank account number I am aware of, then I can actually play with the corpus that you have, and it can be siphoned off. So digital assets are one of the most important or most critical assets you will have to look at. How do you pass on? Then intangible assets. Maybe we have poets, we have writers, we have scientists who will have copyrights, patents, and the royalty income. All these things have to be legally passed on to the next generation. So these are the assets which you will try to pass on to your next generation. The next question is, why have an estate plan? So we will also see why have an estate plan in the subsequent slides, where I will discuss with few of the case scenarios. The estate plan gives clarity of one's wishes after his life. Succession laws in India and the Hindu succession law or Christian succession law are completely different from what you wish your assets to be dealt with. So succession laws, application of succession law, you would like to avoid. And if you take any of your friends' family, if you can go back, verify with some of your near and dear, the family had a lot of friction, or the brother was not wanting to face sister, sister is not wanting to face the elder brother. All these family disputes, one of the main cause would be how do they inherit the wealth of the father. So if clarity is not given by the father, then that becomes the brewing ground for all the family members dispute. So if you want to have a dispute-free family members relationship, if you want to have your assets being parted with your loved one as per your wish, if you want to give clear titles to your loved ones, estate planning is one sure way of giving pleasure to your loved ones, not pain of legal battle. Estate planning is all about how do you deal with your loved ones. Why, with all this, next question is why most of the people don't write a will? During the introduction, Mr. Murali was saying we are a society which denies death. There are only two certainties in life. The two certainties in life are EMI. The loan you take, EMI is a certainty. The next certainty in life is death. So there is no denying fact about death. So when most of the people have this dreaded feeling, when I talk about will, I'm talking about my death. So that is one of the reasons for which most of them don't talk about estate planning. So these are a few of the reasons. My children will not fight over the assets. Very, very wrong notion. We have seen a number of families. You have also read in a lot of newspapers that the family dispute, major conglomerates have had disputes over the control. So making will is a time-consuming process. No, that is also not right. Making will is a very simple process. It's actually a taboo because if I talk about will, I'm talking about my death. So you don't have to have this feeling. Have nominations. I don't have to leave a will. Nominations, yes, nominations to an extent can address it, but nominee becomes a trustee. He has only the right to receive and he has to distribute it to the legal heirs. So when he has to distribute it to the legal heirs, again, in the succession acts will come in place and it may not truly translate your wish. And I'm married, so my spouse will inherit everything. No, that is also not the right reason for which you should not be looking at estate planning. See, here I have been saying my wish, my wish. Let me take a minute to explain this. So you might have a wish, you might have 3 children, you might have 2 children, there could be some financial disparity or the lifestyle of each children may be different. So you might have a feeling or emotional connect with one of the 3 children, one of the 2 children, where you want to give them a major portion of your asset so that they can become a little more financially abundant. The other child may already be financially abundant according to you. So you may want to apportion a greater portion of your wealth. If you don't do that during your lifetime through estate planning, the succession laws will definitely make it equal. So according to you, you did not want to make it equal. You are very clear, equal need not be fair. So you wanted to be apportioned as per the lifestyle of your children. That wish will never get translated if you don't spend some time in doing your estate planning. Now let's get into the tools of estate planning. I've been talking about estate planning. What are the tools with which you will be able to do your estate planning? There are 5 different tools. The first tool is the will writing. This is a very popular, commonly practiced tool called will writing. Then next is trust. You can form a trust and pass on your wealth through a trust to your loved ones. Then comes power of attorney. This is a very powerful instrument which we will discuss in the following slides. The next one is a living will. Very, very important, most important. Last time when we presented it, when Mr. Murali requested me to present in one another forum, this was one of the most discussed topic, living will. And letter of guardianship. This may not be of great relevance to this group because senior citizen group, letter of guardianship is mostly impactful for a young family with minor children. So we will deal with the other 4 titles. And if someone is interested in letter of guardianship, I will also just make a mention so that you can share this information with your younger people or your son or daughter. So let's get on to the 5 tools. So now I'll try to take you through the importance of writing a will through a small scenario. Mr. Karthik is a professional who has accumulated wealth. He was a very loving husband and father. His business tension or whatever you can call it, he suddenly meets a medical emergency, cardiac arrest, and he passes away. This is the scenario. Karthik is survived by his wife and 2 sons. The accumulation what Karthik has done, unfortunately, is just to meet the living expenses of his wife. Now, both the sons are very, very adamant that whatever father has left has to be apportioned as 1/3 each. So now the lady, surviving lady, she's not working. She gets only 1/3, which is hardly enough to maintain her lifestyle. This is the scenario. Now look at Mrs. Karthik. No fault of hers. She is now put into a financial strain, or she is put into a very tough financial situation. This happens in most of the families. Some of the families talk it out in open. Most of the families, they don't talk it out. The priorities of your son or daughter could be completely different. So their aspirations are different. Probably they are looking at making a startup with the money that they will get from the father's wealth because they want to scale high in their life. So they need the seed money. So you can't find fault with them. So the Hindu Succession Act or the Christian Succession Act, it is equally divided among the legal heirs. So when you say equally divided, in this case, it is 1/3, 1/3. So what could have been done better by Mr. Karthik? If Mr. Karthik would have specified, if Mr. Karthik would have left a written will saying that all my assets shall get passed on to my spouse, and after her life, the asset shall be enjoyed by my sons. If this was made into a will, I'm sure in this case, Mr. Karthik's wish would have been, after him, wife enjoys the accumulated wealth, and after wife, children get to divide the wealth. But then, since he has not documented it through a will, the situation was completely unfavorable to the surviving spouse. That is about will.
Yeah, I think we'll continue with the example. We are now at 12:43. We
No.
still have about 12 to 20 minutes more.
Yeah, we will just rush through. Then trust also, I'll give you an example. Like Rakesh was a businessman who had who has created a commercial complex in his mother's name. He wanted this commercial complex to be there, up and running for years together to uphold the legacy of his mother. Rakesh had his son Arjun, who was a talented engineer, but his aspiration were to settle in US. So tragically, Rajesh passed away, and Arjun were to inherit the commercial complex. Arjun's ambitions were different, and first thing Arjun did was to sell the commercial complex and settle in US. So Mr. Rakesh's wish did not get through at all. What could have been a better situation if Rakesh would have created a trust, getting the commercial complex as a property of the trust, and he could have made a trust and defined the trust as Arjun will get the lifetime survival benefit from the trust. Whatever earned the complex gets, the trustee will pass on the earning to the beneficiary, that is Arjun. And Arjun will not have the right to sell the property. And Arjun's children, grandchildren, everyone will have the rights to enjoy the income generated by the commercial complex, but they will not have the rights to sell. So by this way, Mr. Rakesh should have upheld the legacy of his mother through a commercial complex named in his mother's name. This is also something which you can think about, leaving a trust, leaving properties in a trust which can meter the benefits to the descendants. And the descendants may not have the right to sell the property. Then power of attorney. This is again a classic tool. Imagine Mr. Kamesh, who is a successful businessman, has a lot of cash in bank. He becomes incapacitated. His wife and son, they will have to pay up the medical cost. They are running pillar to post. They are arranging some of the loans also to pay because they don't have access to the funds Mr. Kamesh has. So the family is put to strain. How could this be overcome? If only Kamesh had written a power of attorney in his son's favor or in his wife's favor, they would have been able to access the funds and his hospitalization expenses without having to go through any pressure they would have met. So power of attorney is a very powerful instrument which gives the rights to the family member to act on your behalf. Then comes living will. Living will is a advanced medical directive. That is, you can put down your preferences of medical treatment. What could be the preferences of medical treatment? So you could say, if I am supposed to be put on a ventilator or I am supposed to be put on a life-sustaining equipments, maybe I don't like. So don't put me onto ventilator. This could be your wish. This could be our treatment preference. See, artificial nutrition, hydration, I don't want it. So let me pass away peacefully. If these are your wishes, you can draft a living will with the help of a medical professional. And this living will come handy to the family members and to the medical professionals in taking a decision when you are terminally ill. Let's look at the scenario. So like Anil at 75, he is incapacitated and he is suffering a severe stroke and he has become a vegetative state. Without a living will, the family does not know what to do and they have been spending on the medical treatment. And you know the medical treatment is very costly and it goes on for months and most of their family assets are depleted and they have to take loan in order to pay the medical expenses. How could this situation be overcome? See, if only the Anil would have left a living will saying that I don't want the ventilator or life supports if I get into a terminal illness or vegetative state. If this was his directive to the medical professionals, a lot of money, a lot of stress would have been saved for their family members. So living will can come very handy for the family members when someone gets into incapacitation stage. So then few points. These are all some misconceptions. Will needs to be typed, will needs to be stamped, will needs to be registered. These are all not required, but registering a will save you a lot of time and energy when a will is being challenged. Registration saves a lot of stress in facing the challenge of a will. Disadvantages of will comes to act only after the life of the person. During lifetime, will is a document which cannot be enforced. And in the presidency cities like Chennai, Calcutta, you will have to go through a court administrative order called probate for the physical properties, which could be a time consuming. Trust, this you can get it from any of the literature. Trust is 3 people will be involved. One is the donor or the author of the trust. The second one will be the trustee. The others will be the beneficiary. The author appoints the trustee to take care of the trust properties and meter all the benefits to the beneficiaries. This would be the typical constituent of a trust. Trust deed, you can create a trust deed, and the trust deed can have all your wishes converted into conditions. And difference between trust and will. Types of trust, these are all different types of trust. I'll just, for paucity of time, I'll just run through. Power of attorney, you can make, there are 2 power of attorneys you can make. One is a specific power of attorney, other is a general power of attorney. Don't ever sign any general power of attorney. That general power of attorney gives the power to the person to act on your behalf in all walks of life. If you are wanting to sell a property and if you want to give a power of attorney, give a specific power of attorney. Don't ever give an outsider a general power of attorney. If you are giving a general power of attorney, make sure you are giving it to your son or your spouse. And power of attorney is, if you give a general power of attorney, it is valid through till your death. Or you can also make a cessation time in the power of attorney document itself, saying that this power of attorney is valid for next 12 months. If you don't put that time period, then it becomes valid till your life. So after the donors or power of attorney maker's life, then the power of attorney is not valid. Letter of guardianship, I'll just rush through. The minor child need not be given a guardianship to a relative of the deceased. The court can completely take a different view and give a guardianship to some of the orphanages. So if any of your known people have minor children, it is always important that they name the guardians if both father and mother were to unfortunately pass away. So this will save a lot of stress for your children, and your named people can become the guardian of your minor children. So with this, probably insurance policies can also become a tool through which you can have your estate passed. There are policies like whole life policies. I'll not dwell deep into it. Anybody who is in need of these advice, probably they can contact us. Murali, sorry, I have overstepped the time. Now I'm open